Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Connor, and this is where the informal tech reviews live. Now, today's video is a very exciting one because we're going to be focusing on the InAir Pod. Now, what the InAir Pod is, if you're familiar with display glasses, you're probably familiar with some of the accessory products like the XREAL Beam or the Pocket TV or a bunch of other items that are supposed to sort of take your glasses to the next level while not draining your phone's battery life. And that's sort of where the InAir Pod lives, except I would crown this the king of the peripheral devices for the display glasses. And we'll jump into a lot of the reasons for that. But right off the top of my head, some of the main ones are if your glasses have sensors for 3 degrees, 6 degrees of freedom, this tries to take advantage of them. Now, it doesn't work for all of them yet. We'll talk about some of the RayNeo ones here in a little bit. I'm actually trying to help out InAir with that one. But for like the Viture Luma Ultra, you can actually enable 6 degrees of freedom with floating displays, multiple screens, things like that. It's almost sort of like using a Meta Quest device once you throw this onto your display glasses. And some really cool features about it that we'll jump into are it does have a fingerprint sensor on the side, so you can go ahead and unlock it with your fingerprint sensor, and you don't even honestly need to have display glasses to use this. You can actually cast it from the device itself to like your TV or to a projector or something like that, depending on, you know, the technology available in that device. Now, we'll jump into it. I think we're going to hit the unboxing, we'll talk about the specs, and then we'll get into some use cases and see if we can't get some screen recordings of what it actually looks like when you're wearing it. So let's just roll that intro and jump right into it. All right, before we jump into the specs, I definitely wanted to take a second to point out the new partnership between Viture and InAir. Now, you can see right here, they're a landmark power duo, as they put it. And what's awesome about that is they're going to be able to work together and kind of make sure that their products are amazing for each other. And what's great about that is the Viture Luma Ultra is actually the best product to use with the InAir Pod. Now, I'm not saying if you don't have that, don't use it, because I really personally believe that it can upgrade every single pair of display glasses that can have, you know, normal USB video input because of all the awesome features that are on the InAir Pod. Now, for those of you that aren't super familiar with the InAir Pod, what it actually is sort of an Android UI system that works similar to the Meta Quest, right? So when you're wearing your display glasses, you have your XREALs, your RayNeos, your Vitures, your InAirs, you know, whatever glasses you have, it sort of gives you a dashboard. You can use the actual device sort of as a cursor, and there's a screen right here to see some information at a glance, and you can swipe and move on it. There is a fingerprint sensor on the side for locking and unlocking. There's physical volume buttons as well as quick access AI features and a home button right here. There are some fans on here that do get a little bit loud. We'll probably talk about that in the testing section, but this is an amazing product that has super high build quality, and it's got a pretty big battery, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, but definitely an awesome addition to any pair of smart glasses, not just the Viture Luma Ultras. But those ones have the multi-window multitasking in 6 degrees of freedom, so definitely excited about the Viture InAir partnership. I hope to get a chance to test out the Viture Luma Ultras. I have not tested those out yet, but just based off of what I've read and our product compatibility chart that we'll get to in just a second, you'll see what I mean by those ones being the best for these. Now, let's take a look at the website for the InAir Pod and see what exactly is exciting about this, right? Because I'm super stoked on it, but I want to make sure that you guys are as well. So we'll jump into the tech specs. You do have a Qualcomm Snapdragon 8-core processor. I don't know specifically which one it is, but there are some really exciting features in here, like 3D AI rendering. And so let's take a look at the website again. The battery on the InAir Pod is 5,000 milliamp hours. Now, that's basically the size of a lot of phones nowadays. And so instead of draining your phone's battery to be able to stream things, you can actually just drain this thing's battery and either like cast to it from your device or use the native Android apps from the Play Store that's baked into it. Or however you want to use that, right? And so I think that's amazing. And with 8 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage, I haven't personally ran out of space yet or felt the need for more RAM, but it's definitely a powerhouse when it comes to these devices. Now let's take a quick look at some of these frequently asked questions. Is the InAir Pod compatible with other AR glasses brands such as XREAL, Viture, or Roku? Long story short, yes. We'll look at a compatibility chart here in just a little bit to say like what features work where, but if it has a display and you connect this to it, you're going to get an image. Moving on to the next one, can I use Claude, Steam, Epic Games, other applications on the pod? Yeah, they have a nice little answer in here, but basically if it runs through Google Play Store or side-loaded Android applications, you can use it. I've personally used it for Moonlight game streaming from my PC. I've used it for unlocking 3 degrees of freedom sensors on the RayNeo Air series, just a bunch of different things. And that last question is about the InAir 2 Pro set, so I'm not even going to touch on that one because that's not what we're focused on this video, but there is an application that you can use on both your PC and on your phone, and we'll definitely talk about those when we get into that section. But you can mirror your PC using a remote PC streamer. I think it's called InAir Space, which will use similar to like Moonlight, where you can just connect to your PC and control it that way. Now you can connect Bluetooth devices, external Bluetooth devices to the pod and control it that way. I've used it with the Viture link. Definitely hit subscribe if you want to see a video on that. I have a dedicated video coming out on the Viture link here soon. But I've also used it with just a keyboard and mouse. And so it's real spatial computing that's kind of enabled by using something like this, as opposed to using just like your phone and trying to tap around while looking through your display, maybe with Samsung Dex or something like that. So this is definitely an upgrade. Let's go ahead and check out the unboxing and then we'll come back and try it out and see what it's about. Okay, jumping straight into the unboxing, right away you can see it's got that nice tight plastic seal around the box, and there's almost like a holographic outline of the InAir Pod on here, which I think is a very nice touch, so shout out to the InAir Pod for that one. You can see it does talk about the AI agent that's kind of built into the tool. Simple slide up mechanism for getting it out. Oh, and you can see my little microphone in the bottom right here. I'm using the Hollyland A1, I believe. There's a video on the channel about these ones for sure. I won them in a giveaway from the John Rettinger YouTube channel. So if small microphones are a thing you like, hit subscribe, because I actually do have another one coming out soon, another video on a small microphone. And this time it'll be by a company called Saramonic. You can actually see the shine or the sheen, the holographic look really well here on the box. But right on top, got your usual books and things, user manual. Would recommend reading this. I did end up having to ask a couple questions to the InAir Discord community, one of which is how to disable the Air mouse. You actually triple tap the home button for that. But I like this packaging right here on the device itself because it does talk about the device and give you some specs and information on it. But inside the box, there's also like a little anti-wiggle rubber piece, something I would not have thought about. So shout out to the InAir team for that. I think it's probably valuable. You can see on the packaging here, it's got the information about the device, where the buttons are, what the buttons are, how much battery life, how you're supposed to use the little anti-wiggle rubber piece. There it is. Feels very good in the hand. One thing I will note is the exhaust fans the intake fans on the back are in a very good spot. But the screen on the front, I wish was just a little bit lower, because when it's in your hand and you're holding it in like the Air mouse mode, here's the first boot, you have to swipe on the screen sometimes, and it's just a little bit high. Maybe I have small hands, it might be better for you, but InAir team, maybe on the next generation, if you wanted to lower that screen a little bit, I think that would be great. Now let's set it up. For initial setup, I decided to actually connect it to the capture card so we can show you guys how setup works. So initially it wants you just to kind of calibrate your cursor, shake it around. And this shake motion is a left to right while holding it in your hand. It definitely shows that in the picture, but I was struggling trying to figure it out. So just so you're aware, it shows you a couple different ways you can do a calibration. Okay, I figured I'd join you for this so you can kind of see the actual device while we do it. Now that I'm holding it up high, I need to do a recalibration again. Okay, so the next step in the setup is Wi-Fi. Going to select my Wi-Fi. I like how it has a little number keyboard that pops up to the side. Oh, and that one's cool too. Okay, Wi-Fi connected. Then you got to connect your InAir account. Okay, so for that step, You enter in your email, you hit get code, and then they send you one and you type it in. It's super simple. You can now hear the fan on this thing kicking on. It's a little bit audible, but I mean, you got to keep it cool, right? So next step is to enter a unlock pin. Okay, now we need to do fingerprint. So the fingerprint thing is on the side right here. And I think I'm going to do my thumb. Hopefully you can add more than one, but we'll see. It's getting a real thorough scan of my finger. Okay, now it has been set up. So let me go hit continue, and I can swipe to start exploring. Really excited about the remote PC. Super quick swap over to the remote PC. It actually feels really good. I would say the latency is a little bit more than something like Moonlight or I would expect with that, but I think they have some updates coming, and one of those should be accessing your PC from outside of your network, and you can control some of the information in here. It looks like my device doesn't allow for the ultra wide screen mode, and I believe on this one I'm using the RayNeo Air 3S Pro. So that's something to keep in mind. This is all done from the InAir Space application. You can connect via directly on the IP, or if it sees it on your network. You do have to accept the request on your PC, and it felt like that was every time. So hopefully I just missed a setting to like allow forever for a specific device, but it did pair successfully and I'm in. Okay, so I figure now's as good a time as any to talk about the compatibility, and I highlight a bunch of different devices in here. I created this using Gemini based off of some information that was put out by InAir. It's basically the same as theirs, but just more interesting looking. And you can see I have a star on the Viture Luma Ultra column, and that's because that's the one that I'm really excited to try. I just got to get my hands on it, but you can see it has a check mark in basically everything except for the parts that are in development, which means they're going to come, and then, you know, it'll literally have everything. The big one that I'm excited about is that 6 degrees of freedom in there, and that's because, you know, they have a camera and things like that, and so it really enables some awesome capability on the Luma Ultra. The InAir 2 Pro is InAir's in-house designed glasses, and they have some of the awesome features, but the big ones to look out for, I think, across the board for me that I'm excited about is that multi-window mode, which I think everything really supports. And the 3 degrees of freedom floating mode. Now, obviously, the 6 degrees of freedom mode is probably awesome. I haven't really had a chance to try it, like I mentioned. On the other side, you see the 2 highlighted ones. Those are highlighted because those are the glasses that I tested it on. And so that's going to be the XREAL Air series. I have that OG Air, and I use the 3 degrees of freedom mode, which we'll get into here in a second. You do have to calibrate it, and with mine, it's a little crooked, so I think I'll probably have to redo the calibration. But on the Air series for the RayNeos, you can see they do not have some of those features yet, including like follow mode. Let me move my head so you can see it a little better, but like depth adjustment, window size adjustment. Now, window size adjustment and depth adjustment in multi-window mode, I was able to actually grab the window and move it around, and that means farther away and stuff like that. So I don't know, I might put check marks there in Air, maybe with an asterisk or something saying in multi-window mode. But the 3 degrees of freedom is definitely not there on the RayNeo series. I did create that 3 degrees of freedom application and send the information, which is also public on my GitHub repo, if anybody else wanted to make a cool application for it. But you can see that it is accessible from the InAir Pod, and so I guess as a sort of a proof of concept, that will be coming, I believe. I don't know how fast, how much the demand is for the RayNeo series versus some of the other ones, but right now, highly recommend the Viture Luma Ultra. If you have the RayNeo Air series, it definitely brings those to life. That multi-window mode on mobile is amazing. I know there's some things that exist to have multi-window mode in like a desktop format, and you might be able to do multiple windows in something like Samsung Dex, but having it natively built into the device is amazing. It's a little bit clunky to use. It's not all rainbows and sunshine, because you do have to grab at the bottom of the like multi-window pane to like move it around to show the actual application that you care about at that time. But still overall awesome. If that does get lost, which I had happen, and you're like, how do I grab it? I can't move it around. Tapping that home button definitely recenters everything so you can grab it again. Okay, so upon hooking up the XREALs for the first time, the Airs, it's wanting me to remove the glasses, place them flat on a table, and keep them still. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And this one says it here. And then once it's done, just hit OK. So getting this thing turned on and going it couldn't be simpler, right? You just hook up your USB-C to the pod. Let's use the XREALs. And then you hook up the USB-C to your glasses, and it immediately will show you the InAir logo in your vision, and it kind of wakes up. It says connected on the little display here. You can sort of hear the fan starting to go. And right now I'm on my lock screen, and all I have to do is tap this button right here, and I'm into the OS. Now we've already shown the calibration, but just take a look at the 3 degrees of freedom with the XREAL Airs. It has sort of like a bit of a follow me effect where if I look around, it's following me. And I might have touched on this already, but it's definitely more juddery in the recording. It's significantly smoother, feels very crispy in normal use. But there's some pretty cool features in here, including the photos that they have. You can use the AI built into the device to actually convert 2D images and pages to 3D. And there's some examples of some 3D content in here, which I don't think you'll really be able to fully appreciate because you're looking just through your normal device. But from my perspective, this is amazing. Now, the boat that's in the foreground definitely stands out in the background. It just feels very crispy. And even this like thumbnail right there looks very 3D and good. But you can see, and man, it judders a lot in recording. I've switched over to the RayNeo glasses, so we can kind of go into the settings and see what exactly you need to change in order to take advantage of that multi-window. And so you need to head into General, and you can see right now I have 0 degrees of freedom 3D single window mode, and I need to swap that over, and it's going to restart, so I'll have to come back. So now coming back into it, you can see I'm in that multi-window mode, and I can actually grab right here to move it around, and swiping kind of puts it farther away. And because there's no 3 degrees of freedom, they're going to stay wherever you leave them. But if you open multiple applications, grabbing that bar really allows you to be able to like look around between your apps. And if you push it farther away, you can see more at the same time. At the top up there where you can see the Chrome bar settings, I'm not highlighting it, but there's actually a way to flip it from like portrait to landscape orientation or vice versa. And you can actually toggle the AI 3D mode on the different applications, which is a very cool feature. Now, this one that I'm opening is actually the 3 degrees of freedom RayNeo proof of concept that I put together. And you can see that my spaceship is moving around, and it's actually me turning my head. Now, I had myself being recorded on this as well, but I lost that footage. But you can see my head's moving around, and if I tap the little screen on the InAir Pod, it's actually shooting the lasers to blow up the rocks. And the goal of this one is just to move around and catch it. But this is what I sent the source code of to InAir, and you can see I just grab that bottom and move it around to see the different windows. And if I slide it, I can see more. And if it's gone out of the way, I just tap the home button and it'll come back. And you can bring it nice and close to your face, which is awesome. So I'm really excited about this multi-window function. It brings those RayNeo glasses to the next level. Hey, Editing Connor here. I did want to make one mention that when I was going through the settings, there was a couple things that I think I was lacking from the InAir settings, and one of those was like a dark mode. So if you look at the windows in my recording, you'll probably notice that there's a couple spots where like my image doesn't look quite the same as yours if you picked one up. And the way I was able to get that dark mode turned on was actually to open up Gemini and then ask Gemini to turn on dark mode. And so it gave me access to the setting menu where dark mode happens. And so that's something that most users probably would not find. And I think there's a few other settings like that. I really can't think of them off the top of my head, but as far as things that I would improve go, I think I mentioned the display being dropped down a little bit, and then maybe move the home button down as well, just so it's a little bit easier to reach. So you can see, if I'm holding it like this and I'm aiming, and I go to drop my finger, it barely reaches the bottom of this, which I guess is okay because it does still work that way. But if it was a little bit lower and my finger was more centered, I suppose grabbing it up a little higher is an option, but it doesn't feel quite as nice in the hand that way. The other note that I would make would be moving media from your phone to, or from the InAir Pod to your phone is a little bit complicated. These recordings that I had for like the screen recordings to show you guys what it looks like through the lens, those I was able to get off by actually disconnecting it and connecting my InAir Pod to the computer and finding them. I do think in the InAir app where I'm able to pull files from my phone to the InAir Pod, I should also be able to push them back, and there might be a way, but I didn't see it. And when I tried to use Google Photos on the device, it kept telling me that I had a permission that was required, but even after I went through and opened up, gave all permissions to it, it still didn't work. They do mention on the website that you could use like Drive or something like that, but for me personally, Google Photos is the way to go. Just automatically back up into my Google Photos library so I can access that from any of my devices. I'm sure Drive would be similar, but I don't really use that app. So yeah, I think those would be my two main I don't want to say complaints because they're really small. That and I suppose the fan noise can be a little much if you're out in public, but they do have that setting to lower it, which I'm sure comes at a cost. So maybe in a future design, slightly larger fans might help to move a little bit more air. But you know, it's got to be handheld and it's got a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. And so I understand, but I definitely want to point some of those things out. A little bit of room for improvement. It's an awesome product, and I can't wait to see it continue to grow. All right, that's the InAir Pod. What do you think? This is honestly the most exciting accessory that I've ever had for my display glasses. And I would say, you know, having used the Beam and the Pocket TV and different things like that, I haven't got a chance to try the neckband from Viture, but if they partnered with InAir, they must have been lacking something. Definitely having this touchscreen to be able to move around is something that's super awesome, as well as using the sensors to do like a floating mouse projected into your display is amazing. The AI features, I could probably live without with like the built-in AI features, but using Gemini on it or ChatGPT or anything is amazing. It does have good heat dissipation, but these fans get pretty loud, so if that's something that you're sensitive to, definitely hop into settings and change the settings on that. But you know, if you lower them too much, it's going to get too hot and then it'll probably slow down on you, thermal throttle. I think there's a huge potential in this, and I think InAir does have a little bit of a ways to go to really unlock its full capabilities, but I have personally reached out to them with a GitHub repo that I hosted that sort of demonstrates how to unlock the 3 degrees of freedom capability specifically on the RayNeo Air series. And so using something like these, the RayNeo Air 4 Pros on this device would be amazing. Now, I love the ability to kind of resuscitate my old XREAL Airs and make me use them again. Being able to sort of reuse these and have them be used for those 3 degrees of freedom features is amazing, and it really just kind of lights the fire under me a little bit more to really get excited about the Air 4 Pros when they fully unlock some of these features, because the Air 4 Pros are obviously newer, they're lighter, they're brighter, the screen is amazing, and if we could combine those aspects with some of the functionality that the InAir Pod unlocks on the Airs, like that 3 degrees of freedom, like that follow me mode, things like that, then I think they're going to be really a tough set of glasses to contend with. I definitely appreciate you guys sticking around this long watching the video. If it's something that you enjoyed, you appreciate it, definitely hit that thumbs up button or that like button, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see some more awesome tech. We have some really cool videos coming up. I think I have ones for some smart home tech coming up, as well as the Mudra Link. That's going to be one that I feature, definitely keep using some of these display glasses. I'll probably even have the InAir Pod featured in that video. So definitely hit the subscribe button, turn on the bell notification icon. My name is Connor. This is where the Informal Tech Reviews live, and we'll see you next time. Peace.